Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Nick Kroll Show. Today, I got my buddy Josh here again with me. You probably remember him from our Financial Freedom series. He just wanted to come back because we got a lot of good feedback, a lot of great things to think about and talk about. This is a little bit less on the path of building wealth and a little bit less of what to do and a little bit more on the controversial topics because you see a lot of these different topics, and we have a few questions that we're going to get to as well. So without further ado, Joshua, what's going on?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm great. So what do we got first on the list here?
Yeah, so since last time we've had some feedback, not only from the podcast but from my Facebook page, as well as other things that I've seen in regards to, personal finance and some controversial topics. A lot of people, our age or even into their 30s are making some big purchases these days. Known as a home, and some really controversial topics that I've seen. Is kind of how to buy a house the right way, the wrong way, and what the consequences, both positive and negative, can be if it's done, incorrectly. There's also some people, on social media using, Dave Ramsey's name as they're clout chasing. They're using his name to be relevant, and they're just completely wrong. So something that's been firing me up, like it actually gets me angry. Like I get angry. Seeing it because it's so easy to do things the wrong way because these banks and mortgage companies and these financial wellness people on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, they sell stuff that's easy to do. I mean, you can get access to $500,000 in 3 days with 0% down on a mortgage. But I guess we'll talk about the right way like we did last time. In a perfect world, what you're supposed to do to get a home is 20% down, no longer than a 15-year note on that house. And what they're saying is, get a 30-year mortgage, save that. Let's just say your house is $300,000. Your mortgage payment is, on a 30-year note, is $1,100 a month or $1,200 a month. And let's say, okay, on a 15-year, it's $1,900 a month. And what people are saying, and it's much easier to do it this way, is that, you buy that house on a 15-year note. I mean, the interest that you save, I haven't calculated. It's got to be somewhere around $100,000 in interest over that period of time. Now, there's not just the interest savings. What people are trying to tell people is that, hey, stretch this mortgage out to 30 years, keep your cash, and invest the difference. It's true. Mathematically speaking, investing that same $700, $800 a month into something that matches the S&P 500, yes, you will be a millionaire at the end of that time. What people seem to forget is that nobody does that. Nobody has the discipline to do that. Very few people do, but the problem is that they're not selling that. They're selling this idea that you're going to be a millionaire by having debt for a long period of time. Like, I guess I don't understand the logic. So it's just, I kind of want to branch off this conversation in not only in the mortgage topic, but talking about discipline and how it sounds crazy, but money is not a math problem. It's
not at all. Problem. It's so disciplined. It's so, because we all make money, and some of us make less money but have more money. And that's something that I think you and I talk about a lot is these people run around, they're like, oh yeah, I got 10 rentals, I got this, I got that, and they think they're loaded. Really, they're piss poor.
Leveraged. I mean, the bank has them. I mean, they have to collect rent to pay the bank. I mean, when you have debt, you are working for the bank. And that is not a position of strength. That is a position of weakness. And it's hard to grasp that, a 15-year mortgage at 20% down because it's freaking hard, man. It's hard to come up with 20% down. And, no, you don't deserve a $600,000 home. I don't care that you worked. You don't deserve anything. You earn it. And, I mean, it's true. There's people that make, 50, 75 household, 100, 200. I know people who make 300, 400 household and they're broke. They think they're rich because they have big houses, brand new vehicles, boats. Big income. They got big payments, baby. Mm-hmm. If they make anything less than $12,000 that month, $13,000, they're not even going to be able to make their payments, and they're going to be in default. But I got a high credit score. Go fuck yourself. I mean, that's how I feel. Like when someone asks me what my credit score is, I mean, I'm almost embarrassed to tell them what it is because I've made all the mistakes personally. But we're these banks and these institutions, TransUnion, I mean, they're selling you a bag of bullshit. I mean, it's like a credit score is an I love debt score. Debt, the definition of net worth is assets minus liabilities. When you say, what's your net worth, they're not going to start talking about how many rentals they have that are leveraged by B of A. So it gets me going because,
And here's the thing with that too, though. Like, does it create passive cash flow income? Sure, yes, it does. But there's such a large overhead with that, and there's so much extra stress on your life.
Risk.
And exactly, it's risk. And like, this is exactly what Dave Ramsey talks about. And people will like you said, use his principles on the TikToks, and like Dave Ramsey doesn't know what he's saying because, this is how much you could be making. Like, look at the money. It's like, yes, that happens. And Dave knew that. And that's exactly what he did, but he lost it all and he went bankrupt. Right. And then he said, hey, I'm going to do this a different way. And it's worked pretty damn well.
I think he's worth north of like $600 million now.
It's crazy.
And it's true.
I think it's like 50 million plus.
Oh, he's
I think like with his buildings and stuff.
He's
maybe, but
very, very wealthy.
Yeah.
Very, very wealthy individual. I mean, but the difference between 50 and 500, honestly, at that point, I mean, what more do you need?
Yeah.
But I think money is more of a conversation of risk management and discipline. And one thing that I love to see is, everyone wants passive income. I mean, everyone wants to do what they want on a day-to-day basis, collect checks and make deposits in the bank. But I mean, there's a big difference because if what happens if they don't pay rent? Your risk. What happens if the market goes down or you paid too much and you're involved in a huge complex that has a bank note, and say the project takes a year and a half to complete because you built a 300 unit complex. And within that year and a half, the market falls. I mean, we've seen what can happen to the real estate market in 12 months. I mean, look what has happened just the past 12 months from home prices are just soaring. And they can go down just as fast.
And here's a real life example too. You only ever hear about people's successes online. They only tell you how good it is, how the good months go. They don't tell you, most people don't tell you how bad it can be sometimes. I just heard a nightmare story from one of my buddies. His girlfriend's father has a house. They were going through a divorce. They were trying to sell the house for the mother to buy a new house. They needed to do a credit leverage. I forget exactly what they called it, but they kind of refinanced the mortgage in a way so she could get some credit out of the equity of the home.
Cash out refi.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And then buy the house. And they were like, all right, we'll just rent this in the meantime.
Yeah.
Well, they found a guy, rented it to him. Then COVID happened. The guy didn't pay for almost 14 months. Yeah. And they couldn't kick him out because all the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do. They were like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
And like that's the real life scenario here that people don't think about. They think, oh, I'll just buy this house with zero down. Don't worry, my tenants will pay my mortgage for me. It's like,
right.
Yeah, and
you think you've like hacked something and like everyone knows how to do this. Like, everyone understands the concept. You're not a rock star, you're in debt like everyone else.
Right.
It's because there is a really smart way to buy an investment property is like, say, I don't have my home, I rent right now, but when I go to buy my first home, a really smart move would be to buy a multi-unit and then, okay, like, yes, I'm in debt, but I'm going to do it the right way, 20% down. I'm going to make sure that I can pay the mortgage with my income, not the tenant's income, and I'm going to create net worth. I'm going to own that facility because, your goal in life, everyone wants the passive income, but you have to build a foundation before you build the hotel, and that foundation is going to be you being individually debt-free, owning a home, and then at that point deciding which way to pivot. But don't leverage the home that you're going to raise your children in to buy a rental property because you watched 3 or 4 YouTube videos on how to do that,
or a couple of TikToks,
and then you're really principled. I mean, if debt is such a good, I always say to people, if debt is such a good tool to make money, why don't you have any?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question right there because these people do. They think that they're so, but then you're like, hey, let's go do this that costs cash. And like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I got to make sure I get this, get that.
Yeah. What do you mean? You're so rich.
Something that you just made a great point on that I want to elaborate on a little bit is I am not telling anybody to not get into real estate.
Correct.
I'm not telling anybody to not invest in real estate
Correct.
and not own houses and rent out and be a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
That's all a great idea. But be able to make those payments yourself.
Correct.
If he doesn't, or she, whoever your tenant is, doesn't make the payments for 6-7 months, be able to cover that on your own. Whether that's in an emergency fund set aside, or you're just fucking loaded and you're making a good income that you're not going to quit from, and you know you have a steady income coming. That, like, I get that, okay? Because it is true. It's great. I have a buddy who's doing this, and it's working really well for him right now.
Oh, absolutely.
But he also has some family support who's, like, handy. So if something breaks, he can have his father help him out, like stuff like that, too. Because you got to remember, I'm a homeowner, and I couldn't tell you how many things we've already had go wrong. I've lived here for, like, 5 months. We've had to replace rotted wall. Our boiler had problems. Like, it's never ending, you know? And you always want to upgrade shit. So your house continues to grow in value.
Yeah, it's like, can you afford the problem? The bigger the property, the higher the problem. Like, what if you need a new roof? That's going to be, $60,000. Do you have $60,000? No, you got to borrow more money. You know, and then it's like, okay, you spent $60,000. If you have 8 units that do $1,500 a month, how long does it cost to recoup just that roof? I'm not saying either, like everyone says, to me when I talk about this, it's like, listen, I want to be in real estate. I mean, my family is, and I not my direct family, but some of my grandmother is, and if you do it right, it's a really great thing to do. I mean, she's elderly at this point, and she's able to make a living, a really good living for us, for her, and she helps us and my siblings, and it's been a blessing. But she's not sunk in debt. And I think that's the lesson is, a lot of people would leverage the building, use the equity, buy something else, and now you're leveraged again. But, when you don't have to do that. And I would say, like, if you get to the point and let's just say, you're a high income earner for 20 years and you're smart and you put away, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 million, whatever, amount of money. And I hate to say this because you can't do this until you get to that really wealthy point. But, like, if you can borrow money for, like, rentals in a really smart way, still do a large amount of money down. But you got to remember, you have a $5 million, $6 million cash pool sitting out back that you could just write a check for that property at any time. But when you're getting into this or you're buying your first home, you got to be doing the 20% down because that makes you committed to this investment. Once you own that home, you free up that mortgage payment. At that point, your life's up to you.
And here's the thing, because people are like, oh, well, how do you want me to save 20% down? Well, have some discipline for a year or two, whatever it takes you to do it, even if it's 3 or 4 years. And here's something that drives me insane. I hear this all the time. Well, I can't take it to the grave with me. What if I die tomorrow? And my question back to that is,
what if you don't?
What if you don't?
Yeah.
What if you don't die tomorrow and you sink yourself in debt every fucking day more and more, and then you wake up one day and you're 45 and your life is in complete shambles because the bank's coming down on you, your cars are getting repossessed because your entire life, all you've done is borrow debt saying, oh, well, what if I die tomorrow? I'm more scared of what if I don't die tomorrow.
Biggest excuse I ever hear is, well, what about my quality of life? I guarantee you I'm happier than you because I am not concerned about someone coming for my wheels or I'm not, can I pay the light bill? Can I buy groceries this week? And
I lived my dream today. I've said this for years now. I want to just wake up, work out in my basement, have a buddy over, shoot a podcast, spend some time with my wife, shoot some guns off my deck, and that's what I'm looking for out of life. Yep. And I did exactly that today. We're doing a podcast. We worked out this morning. My wife's downstairs working out right now. Her and I are going to spend the rest of the day together, and we shot a gun off my back deck today. That's what I'm looking for out of life, and this is exactly what I've done. I've stayed out of debt, and it's worked very well for me. Yep. It isn't. People go, well, what about this? Or what about, like, the car thing is a great one. Oh, I need a reliable car. Why not, like, something I've always said is the 3-car rule. Because if one breaks, we have a third one to back us up.
Yeah.
And my 3 cars cost less than the average person's 1 car.
Yeah.
I would rather have 3 than 1.
Yeah, I mean, but, you were, without talking about, any individual, financial pictures, like, I know I've seen people make tremendous progress not making a lot of money. Like, you don't have to be. That's the biggest fallacy about financial wealth. And I do want to talk about the kind of car situation as well, because that's a hot topic. I mean, everyone justifies that they need to have good transportation. listen, a 19 Silverado is not good transportation. That's really good transportation. Like you can get a 2017 Kia Forte for $8,000, $7,000 with 30,000 miles, 40,000 miles. Like you don't have to. People, and you can save up for that. Like I don't care if you have to save $300 a month, for however long, 2 years. Like you'll end up owning it in cash, and then it becomes net worth. But something I want to talk about, saving and discipline, and okay, how do you pay cash for a car? 'Cause that's such a foreign concept for people because but paying off debt and owning things in cash is a snowball. It's really freaking hard in the beginning because you have to cut everything. I mean, that's why Dave Ramsey says rice and beans and rice, because you have to be that prepared. Like you have to be ready to do nothing for a little while. But I know that I went through it, and I know you never really had all that debt, but
we never had debt. My wife had college debt.
I certainly did. A big mountain. But I kind of want to pivot this onto, the credit card thing. And then I think this is going to roll into talking about car payments and stuff because, I put it on my page this week that, the average credit card balance, in the United States is high. And the average monthly interest payment on that credit card is $89 per month. And I put something on there that said, hey, spend it. If you invest $89 a month and it matches, and it does a 15% annual return for how many years? I can't remember, 20.
I just pulled it up right here. I think that's the post you're talking about.
Yeah. So the average credit card debt in the U.S. is approximately $6,000 with an average monthly interest charge of $89. And most people do carry these balances their entire lives. And $6,000 is really...
I know people that pay their credit card with a different credit card. I mean, and they think they're cheating the system, right? Like that's the worst part is they think they're getting away with something. Oh, I didn't have to pay any of my money for this, so now I'm going to go out to eat with this money. Like, holy shit, you're digging your own grave.
And let's just say for me, I'm 23. If I invest at $89 every month for 40 years at a 15% annual return, and 15 is low. I did not shoot high there. I was like, what if the market has a bad year over the next 40 years? So 15 average, you'll have $2.8 million. And I had a rebuttal to that, and I had a couple actually, and it's like, well, that's not realistic. You gotta have credit cards. Listen, the only thing you can buy with credit cards is consumer junk. Will I buy groceries with it? Great. I'm not telling you to take food out of your children's mouth here, but what I'm saying is you're already spending that $90. You're already spending it. I'm not asking you to save more or make more. I'm saying don't. You racked up the credit card, and I guarantee you if you go through the purchases, it's clothes, it's a MacBook, it's shit you didn't need.
That's a good point. Slow down on that for a second. The fact that you don't even have to make more. You don't even have to spend less. You just have to pay for it.
To reallocate your income.
Yeah. That's such a good point, man. Like you talked over that really fast. I wanted to slow that down a little bit because all we're saying is the interest that you're paying, you could use that interest money to make more money in stocks or whatever you want to do it with. That's such a good point because it's whatever the numbers you just gave were. Like that's, just a tremendous point.
Yeah, and that's what I try to tell people. I'm not asking you to not increase your income, not decrease your income, not lower your quality of life. And it's always like, well, kids, tuition, car payments, mortgage, shit happens in the house. Like, listen, we all have life. Like life isn't an excuse to be bad at money. Like, it's just not. Like, we all have life, and it comes in many different shapes and sizes. But honestly, and people don't like to hear this, but, like, how well you don't do is up to you. If you tell yourself you can't do it, you're not going to do it. If you start this financial journey and you say it's too hard after 5 days, you're not going to succeed.
Also, if you listen to other people, too, right? Like, I couldn't tell you how many times in my life someone said, oh, just wait until whatever they want to say. Yeah. And then that happens.
I smashed it.
Yeah. And I'm just like, it's here. What? And they're like, oh, no, wait until this now.
Right.
And then it comes, and it's like,
I'm prepared.
What's your point? Like, yeah, exactly. I've prepared for that. It's called budgeting. It's called having an emergency fund, having a plan. Yeah. And not just in money, too. Like, I hear it all the time with, like, my workouts and stuff. They're like, oh, well, wait until you have to work 50-hour weeks. Okay.
I do 60.
Yeah. Wait until this. okay, it's here. Like, I'm still working out.
Yep.
You know, I almost want to have a kid to spite people. And I know that sounds really fucked up, but that's what I hear all the time is, oh, wait until you have a kid. If you think my life is going to like drastically change because of that, you're crazy. Like, I'm still going to work out. We're still going to pay our house off. Like, is there shit that's going to be different? Absolutely.
Sure.
I'm not like, listen, I'm not a parent. I know people are going to jump all over me for that, and that's fine. Come at me. But like, I promise you, it's not going to be like, oh my God, I can't. Like, you have to plan just like everything. My wife and I will sit down at least about once a week over tea and just talk about like, hey, you know, these are things we have to think about. You know, this is what we're spending right now. This is how much we have to put on our mortgage right now to pay it off by the time I'm 30. This is how much we have to do for this, and this is how much we have to do for that. When we have a kid, we're going to have to pay for this, this, and this. So where is this money going to come from? We're planning for this already.
Right.
And most people just kind of have a kid and they're like, oh, fuck, like, now I got to pay for this too. And it's like, no, like, be prepared.
They use their kids as an excuse for everything.
Yeah.
Being late, being poor, you know, being in debt, having a low income, not being able to find a good job. And like, you know, my mother always told me that having a child is a privilege, not a right. Like, if you're going to bring something into this world, it's your responsibility to take care of it. I mean, stop using it as an excuse. I mean, I see it all the time, you know, in my place of work where like the child is, they like hold the child up like, nope, I'm allowed to be stupid. You know, I'm allowed to not have money. I got a child. Look, here he is. He's puking everywhere. And it's just, it's not an excuse. Like, you're right. You have to be prepared for it. I'm prepared for anything. I don't care what happens. Like, and I'm not a rich man, and you don't have to be rich to be prepared, because a $6,000 credit card bill, you didn't spend that on groceries. It's not all groceries. You know, you're lying to me and you're lying to yourself. And I think most importantly, you can lie to me all day long. Just don't lie to yourself, because you're never gonna make it. But speaking of the, you know, investing, you know, that money every month, we actually had a question about, you know,
I'm going to pull it up. I think I can find it.
Yeah. It was about 401ks and you know, deferring taxes. And I know I'm not going to dive too deep into to the technicalities of that. I think a lot of people don't or won't understand you know, that question. So, you know, when you invest, you know, that $89 a month, the question was, with markets being at all-time highs and income tax rates being low, do you believe the traditional 401k, deferring taxes later, is still one of the best viable personal investments? Obviously, time in the market is more important than timing the market, but what are your views on this in regards to potentially having a higher income tax bracket later in life? I think that's a good question, and one that I can really easily answer without diving into the technicalities of tax and in investing and percentages and stuff. So the traditional 401k, if you have one, is a really powerful wealth building tool. Now, this is a twofold question. The rich do not use 401ks because they need access to their money sooner than 65 years. However, you still should use the 401k, because even if you're a high income earner and you can contribute to your 401k, that's going to lower your taxable income for the year. You're going to pay less tax. A 401k is a deposit into your future on a pre-tax basis. So if your gross paycheck that week is $500 and you want to invest, 5%, 5% of 500 goes right into your 401k, and it grows with the market, tax deferred. What's great about that, instead of being post-tax in deposits, which is like a Roth IRA, is that pile of money gets bigger faster. I don't care if you're in the highest tax bracket when you get there. I mean, if you're in the highest tax bracket, you want for nothing. And you got to understand that your pile of money got bigger and grew faster. And you're still going to be at your marginal income tax bracket. It's a really powerful wealth building tool. I don't care if the next 5 years the market does 1%. Invest in your 401k. It lowers your taxable income for the year, and it's always going to bounce back. The market adjusts. It'll figure it out. It's going to go down. It's going to go up. It might go way down.
Right now, it's like Black Friday for stocks. It's awesome.
Yeah,
people are like, "Oh, like, are you gonna sell?" No, I'm not gonna sell. I'm gonna buy more.
Yeah, I mean, it was even back in March. I mean, if I had the money back in March, man, I would have sold everything I had. I mean, I invested in a few things that, a couple $100 that are twice that now. I wish I did everything, But yeah, the 401k is a really powerful tool. You do have to use it. It's very powerful. However, a lot of people don't have 401ks. But you still have the opportunity to invest. I think at another time, I'll come back on the show and dive into these tools myself almost exclusively talking because I do understand these things and I do want people to understand them. But I encourage that if you have a question, send it to Nick, send it to myself. I do want to teach people about 401ks, Roth IRAs, and ways to get wealthy.
I'll vouch for him. He does know what he's talking about with that shit.
Yeah, that's very nice. He doesn't usually vouch for me. He usually tells me I'm a moron. No. But that $89, if you do that $89 and you do, like my portfolio did 33.5% this year in my retirement, if let's just say that does 20%, that 2.7, I guarantee you becomes $4 million, $1 million. $89 a month becomes $2.76 million.
$89 a month that you were paying anyways.
Anyways.
And I think that is a perfect point with the car payments. The average car payment is like $520-ish a month.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what you could do with that? Do you have any idea?
If you invest that, I'm not saying invest everything you make. I mean, you got to spend money at some point. But dude, $500 a month for 40 years, I have to come up with that figure for you right now because it's gonna blow people away. The problem is they never ever tell you this stuff. No one teaches you this because honestly, your teachers are poor. It's sad, but it's true, man. But also, one of the largest percentage of millionaires is teachers, because teachers have good retirement plans, 401ks. They're not really 401ks, and you're a teacher. I think it's called a 403b. But they're one of the largest populations of millionaires in this country. But I know teachers personally who don't know anything about this stuff. I mean, they just know that they are a teacher and they get a state pension, and when they retire, they get X amount of money per month, and they're just going to continue making payments. But, let me figure that out. So let's say I'm 23 right now, and let's do the same 40-year time frame, and you saved $0 so far, and you contribute $500, which is a crazy number. Let's just say you still have. Let's just say it's only $250, so you only do half of that, and you think you're going to return the same 15%. The same 15%, $250 a month for 40 years. Sorry, I'm slow here. How much you saved? 0. Calculate. That is not the right number.
Do it by the month.
I think the calculator's having an oopsie here.
12 times 40 is 480. So just do 250 times 480.
Well, no, that would not be including the interest here.
Right, get that number and then times it by 0.15.
Well, no, that would be a flat interest curve. That would not be annual. No, that wouldn't be annualized if you did that. I can't use your laptop. Go to the Dave Ramsey has an investment calculator, and I encourage people to use that because that's what I use. And it annualizes because that would be a straight 15%. What you want is that kind of annualized return.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That makes sense.
So it's Dave Ramsey investment calculator.
I'm pulling it up right now. Enter your current age. Let's say you're fucking 20. I think that's like the average age of this listener. And you want to do it until you're 60. So that's your 40 years. How much have you saved?
Say 0. Let's just say we're starting at ground 0 here.
Yeah, we'll start at ground 0. How much will you contribute monthly? Let's say $250. What do you think your annual return will be? What percent you want for that? 10, 15?
Do 15%.
We'll do 15. Calculate.
What is it?
$7.7 million.
Yeah.
And that's half of your car payment right now. Half.
The average car payment in the United States, I think, is like $550. But how about if you just own that car? The thing is like when you invest, don't just use your 401k. You can have a 401k, a Roth IRA, your own traditional IRA. You can have an HSA. I personally invest, $25 a week in 5 different places that are not my 401k. $25, okay? We're not talking a lot of money here.
And I want to blow your mind, too, a little bit. Guess how much money you contributed to that $7.7 million?
Maybe $300,000.
$120,000 is your actual cash that's in that $7.7 million.
Those are the car payments you would have made your whole life.
Yes, you would have spent $120K on car payments, but instead your $120K became $7.754 million.
It's called delayed gratification.
Yep.
You can have the little shitty truck now, or you can have what the fuck ever you want when you're older. Now, the thing
Did you just point at my truck?
I kind of did. That's pretty bad. It's a very nice truck. He's a tranny. The thing about the 401k and traditional retirement vehicles is that you cannot access this money until you reach retirement age. Sometimes it's well, everyone thinks retirement age is 67, 65. That's for Social Security, which was funny. Last time, Nick didn't even know what that was. He didn't even know the government gave you money just for being around.
I genuinely did not.
Yeah, I mean, you can be 20 years old, be a duck, and you can get paid $1,200 a month. It's ridiculous. But, the 401k, the Roth IRA are great. Very wealthy people still deposit, $6,500 a year into a Roth IRA for a tax write-off. But you don't want to put all your money into retirement vehicles, because if you get to that point, in your life where you're actually fairly wealthy and you're a high income earner, you want access to that money to do stuff with. You want to buy property like we were talking about. But in a 401k, you'll pay a steep penalty. I think it's like 10% on top of your marginal income tax bracket to take it out. So don't have your 401k be all of your money. Like, you don't want that to be all of your money, because you'll never be able to access it. But that if you invested in your own individual brokerage account, that amount of money, $250 a month, which honestly a lot of people probably have. I know they have it because they're spending it on trucks. I know you have the money.
That's the thing. Yeah, like, we're not talking about anything unrealistic here too. And I think something else to note is also Josh likes money a lot. He gets pretty jazzed up when we start talking about this. I'm more of I just want to live my life and not owe people stuff. And I can't even explain to you, like, I invest, I do that stuff, and it works. You know what I mean? Like, I can't wait to have my investment portfolio reach the balance of my mortgage and pay off that mortgage. Like, and people will call me an idiot for doing that. They'll be like, why would you do that? It'll keep making so much more money. You're not wrong. You're 100% right.
Mathematically, you're right.
Right. You're right. And mathematically, I will be cheating myself out of money.
Right.
But my goal isn't to be a multimillionaire or billionaire.
Right.
I just want to own my own life. I want to watch my kids grow up. I want to
Yeah.
do exactly what I told you earlier. Work out, shoot, hang out with my wife.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for, And like, I feel like that's pretty average. Like, a lot of people aren't striving to be billionaires.
No.
But this is a great way for the average person to averagely make a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. And I posted about that a little while ago, because I do catch myself getting a little tangential on making a lot of money, because obviously, like, everyone says they don't care about money, but they buy scratch tickets. Okay, well, you care about money.
That's a good point.
You do, and you wish you hit the lottery right now. You're just making excuses for your life. But, there's listen, my goal, and I think a lot of people's goal should be, let me get my first $1 million. Think about it this way. If you have $1 million, which is, let's just say you can save, if you invest, it's hard to say, let's say you work 40 years, and not even, let's say you work 20 years and, you invest that over 20 years, $500 a month. If you can do that, times,
I still have the calculator up. Just tell me what you want.
let's say you're 23.
You want 20 years?
You want it for 20 years to 43.
23.
And
43.
you're fairly aggressive, and you do. Let's just say you do $500, $500 or $1,000 a month.
You want it at 15%? I'm gonna drop it a little bit to 12%, just because I know somebody's gonna be like 15%. Come on, let's do 12% here, and let's just see what that is. $500,000 for $500 a month, 20 years at 12%.
So that's $500,000 from just that. You have, theoretically you should have this is separate. This is your individual brokerage. This is or your Roth IRA. This is what you're taking out of your money, depositing somewhere else. So between that and your 401k, you probably have your first $1 million. So
if it was 15%, it'd be $748K.
Right, and that's a big difference. And you're going to see big swings like that. But so that's a close enough number, honestly. If you bump that up to $650 a month, which you could probably do because you've been doing it on your truck payment, it's going to be a big difference. But it's like, oh, but I need a truck. Like, you don't need that truck.
Yeah, $650 becomes $973K. So there's your $1 million.
So you're 43 years old. You've saved what would have been a truck payment until you're 43. You're 43. You're very young. You're 43. 43 is young.
Yeah.
You just didn't buy a truck. You still had a mortgage. You still paid for college. You still went on vacations. You just didn't have a high truck payment. Now you're 43 and you have $1 million. Now, if that $1 million continues to do an annualized return of 12%, you're going to be able to live off of $120,000 a year. And that's what the S&P has averaged over the last 30 years, is 12. So it's like $1 million. Like, people don't. The problem is they don't grasp the concept of $1 million. They don't think it's possible. They think it's on TV. Like, but it's really so freaking obtainable. I just showed you. Just don't have a truck payment for 20 years. Just honestly, if you want a truck, save up cash and pay for it, because your income's going to go up, it's going to go down. But like, that's what I want for people. I want people to understand and have the relationship with money it's not about getting rich. It's about taking control of your life.
Absolutely.
That's all this is.
That's my favorite topic, is take control of your life. Take ownership of your life, right? Because it's so mental. It's such a mental thing. It's not like there's nothing crazy, right? Like we haven't really done anything that's spectacular. At least I certainly have not done anything that's spectacular.
No.
I make average money. My wife makes average money. We're not like rich. We don't have great paying jobs. We have jobs.
Yep.
You know, we don't do anything that's crazy. We just don't have debt. We save up. We buy it. And we still have, like, we buy nice things. You know what I mean? Like we go out to eat. We do that kind of stuff. But we just make sure that we take care of the house payment first.
Right.
And then we take care of, you know, the other like bills, your gas, your electric. And then we say, all right, we got to invest. And then we say, hey, what are we going to do for the business? And then we say, all right, hey, what about what's left? Well, now what's left, we can either continue to put it on the house or we can go out to eat and spend it. It's
right. It's telling your money where to go and not wondering where it went. And for me, you know, I made the most progress on my financial journey when I made the least amount of money. And that's because I sold shit. You know, something you saw today on Dave Ramsey was, it's just a car, sell it. You know, like let's just say you have 2 car payments. The average car payment is $554. You know, husband and wife both have a car payment that's, you know, $1,108 a month, which is probably your mortgage or damn near, you know, all of it. In some people's circumstances, you know, just don't have car payments. Well, that's not realistic. Yes, it is realistic. I drove for a period of time, a 2005 Hyundai Santa Fe. You know, I can get more than that. I just chose to be frugal and not do that. So, you know, you got to sell your stuff. You don't deserve anything. And stop being a victim, man. Like people are just victims of everything, and woe them, and just take responsibility for what happened. Like, you know, take responsibility for your life. There's one thing for certain in life, is it's going to throw curveballs at you, and you're not going to be prepared for those things. But, you know, don't let money be something that keeps you up at night. Don't let money be the thing that, you know, you lay flat in your bed, you know, at night with anxiety. Like, there's so many other things to be stressed about that you can actually take care of. Like, don't let money take up your time in a negative way. And a lot of people would look at me and say, yeah, Josh, don't let money take up a lot of your time, because obviously that's what I talk about. That's like my thing. But those are people who, honestly,
there's a reason why you're doing better.
They don't have any.
There's a reason why you're doing better, and it's because you've been focused on it, and it's something that you've cared about, and it's not the goal of just trying to have a big house and drive a Lamborghini.
No, absolutely not.
It's the goal of owning yourself, knowing nobody can buy me off. Nobody's going to do this.
Nope.
Nobody's going to tell me where I can or can't go
Or
today.
work. Like, imagine if you get put out of work. If you have an emergency fund, you can take a job that you want, not a job that you have to get. Because a job is a long-term thing. I mean, I'm sure people find themselves in the street all the time without a job, and they only have $1,000. Believe it or not, 80% of Americans don't have $1,000, which just blows my mind. But
I say all the time, we pay off our mortgage. I could deliver pizzas if I wanted to.
Do really well.
I don't think that I would ever do that. You know, I'm like pretty motivated to work. I enjoy working. I enjoy training. I enjoy like the business stuff. But realistically, if the business grows 0%, if it got worse, I could still afford to do it because it's fun to do it. You know, if it doesn't do anything, I can afford to do it because it's fun. And if we don't have a mortgage payment,
you got to buy groceries and do some fun stuff, and a few $1,000s a year in taxes, and that's about it.
Crazy, man. Like, that's what I tell people when they're like, well, why are you putting so much extra on your mortgage? Like, why don't you buy yourself a nice car? I couldn't tell you how many times someone's told me to buy myself a nice car. And I just like, we have 5.
How about you buy yourself Dave's book?
Yeah. We have 5 cars that are worth probably the cost of one brand new car.
Yeah.
You know, and they all get us around. When they break, we fix them. Granted, that's a big. Actually, let's talk about that, because that's a big thing. People always say like, "Oh, well, what happens when the car breaks?" Do the math when the car breaks, right? Because like a wheel bearing goes out, or it needs an oil change, or I don't even know, like brakes. You know, first off, brakes, learn to do yourself. I mean, you need like 4 tools, and it costs like $100 if you're going to do it yourself. I've done my own brakes for years now, and it's so simple. There's a few different things on different cars, but I promise you can do it. And something I told myself was, if I'm going to pay this guy to do it, this is a human being that's doing the work for me. Why can't I do this? You know, invest in yourself. Invest in a fucking wrench, a socket, and go do your own damn brakes.
Yeah.
It's not complicated, you know? And a wheel bearing goes out. Okay, that's $300. That's like a 1 month of a normal car payment.
Right.
And you're gonna tell me that you can't afford to keep up with the maintenance?
Right.
Come on.
I think what's complicated about talking about personal finance is that every single household that you talk to has a different scenario. And I don't mean the side. I mean, if you look at the two individuals and you look at how much money that they make together and what their household income is, it changes so much. And we all have different interests, hobbies, things that cost money that we enjoy to do. And I want everyone to make sure that they're enjoying themselves. I mean, if you're on your debt-free journey and you reached a milestone and you planned that you were going to reward yourself with a night out to eat, go do it. If you said, hey, like I have $100,000 in debt at $50,000, when I get this down to $50,000, I want to take a vacation with my husband, to kind of, husband, wife, to relax, go do that. Like,
enjoy your life, but plan to
Yes,
enjoy your life.
just plan
Don't
it.
just randomly go, fuck, I'm sick of all this shit. I got to get away and go take a vacation.
use your friggin' new American Express that you got in the mail that it's going to be 0% for 18 months. You're not going to fucking touch.
Just plan for it, And it's not even like, it's not complicated to just plan for know that shit's going to go wrong, right? Like, we own a house. I know in the next 10 to 12 years, I'm going to have to put a roof on this thing.
Yeah.
I know that. So what do we do in the meantime? Maybe like every few months when the bills account, because we always put more into the bills account than what we pay. Mm-hmm. So, when that reaches X amount of dollars, we pull that money out and we buy something. I.e. last month, we bought a couch with it.
Yeah.
So whenever that gets to that, we do that. So after that, we're like, hey, we got to think about the roof. Mm-hmm. Maybe we start putting that aside for when we have to do a roof.
Right.
It's just like plan for these things because everyone's like, oh, you don't know what's going to happen. You're right. But you can plan that shit will go wrong. It's life. Life goes wrong all the time.
It's going to happen. Life is going to happen.
Exactly.
And you can't continue to use it as an excuse. You can't be a victim to life because shit happens. Listen, people are going to die. It's very sad. It's going to happen. You probably might get in a car accident. You might get a leaky roof. You might get in a car accident. You might get sick. Shit's going to happen. But stop using it as an excuse to be an idiot today, because it's just it fires me up. It really does, man. Excuses and victims just fire me up. And kind of getting back to the original topic about, speaking about, Dave Ramsey and it's so easy for these bullshit artists, also known as, they're just everywhere, man. And they're telling you like I saw one this morning when I was taking a leak. And it was like, I got $20K. How do I invest in real estate? You don't. You got 20 grand, cupcake. I mean, you can't even buy a used Honda. I mean, you have nothing. You have 20 grand. You have in the video was showing how you need 3% down on an FHA, which is you can do in 37 states. You need $17,500 down, and you can buy this unit, and then you can rehab it. It's like, honestly, go fuck yourself. Because
you're digging yourself your own grave. That's all you're doing.
You don't know shit. You watch TikTok. You don't know anything. Like, you don't know. This is why Dave Ramsey says, don't take advice from poor people. There's a reason these people have money. No, most people did not come from money. We bought the study, the largest study of millionaires done by Chris Hogan and Dave Ramsey, and it would blow people's minds, but most people who are millionaires were not from money. And they don't have crazy jobs, and they don't have high. I think the millionaires were like, they had a household income of like 70 grand or something like that.
They were literally average people that all they did, the biggest thing they did was pay their home off early.
Yes.
That was
the average time to pay a home off with a Dave Ramsey person was 11 and a half years. They paid their home up, which is fast. I mean, that is fast. But because that's net worth. If they own their home, that goes into the calculator. If you have $1 million in net worth, you are a millionaire.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's not $1 million in cash, right? That's $1 million between everything you own.
Correct.
So when you own your house, if you have a $300,000 house, you now have a $300,000 net worth.
Correct.
Plus whatever vehicles or whatever else the hell you own that's worth a damn, that is your net worth. We're not talking about having just $1 million in cash.
No.
I get that seems more unobtainable, but you'd be surprised once you don't have that mortgage, how obtainable that can be.
Yeah.
For the fun here, I'm just going to use a calculator. And let's say you don't even invest. If you make a household income, what's like the average household income?
I thought it was like almost 60 grand, 55, 60 grand. I could
60?
I could be wrong, but also average. Yeah, we don't come to these things prepared. We just shoot off the hip. So here 68 703. is the average
68.
household income.
So we'll do 68,000.
Yep.
In 12 years, you almost have $1 million. You have 800,000 in 12 years. If you own your home, you're not really paying for anything. So I mean, realistically though, you're probably not putting $68,000 in your bank account. Let's say you're putting 40 in your bank account. You have $500,000 in 12 years without investing it. Now imagine if you invested that. I mean, I'll pull the calculator up just so you can get.
I mean,
some
go ahead and
entertainment.
make an excuse. I mean, honestly, this conversation is insert your excuse here. I mean, it is. There are so many bullshit artists out here, selling you a crock of shit. These banks are not your friends. You know how much money you pay in interest on a mortgage if you carry it out 30 years? I mean, it is wild. I mean, they are not your friend. Debt is never your friend. It's not a good tool. It doesn't do anybody any good. There's a reason why Apple and Google are positioned so heavily, because their cash reserve is huge, not their line of credit. They're not powerful because they have a line of credit. They're powerful because they have cash.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm good. You got anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this till midnight. So I'm.
Go ahead, shoot something else off if you want.
No, I'm pretty good. I mean, we touched on the mortgage thing, which I wanted to talk about. To sum that up, do a 15-year note. Don't, do 20% down. Pay that off in 15 years. Create some freedom in your life. Don't pay the bank interest. It's going to cost you $120,000 or so in additional interest. So don't let that money go to the bank. Invest that for your future. We talked about credit card debt. Take that $89, invest it somewhere else. Stop making excuses. You don't need a MacBook. You don't need a cell phone. You don't need to go on a vacation. No, you don't deserve a vacation. You earn it.
I think that was actually my favorite point that you made, is the credit card thing, because it's so clear. Like, you don't need to make more. You don't even need to spend less. You just have to not be paying the interest. And you can make what would have been interest for the bank work for you. I mean, that was such a great point.
Because you have the money to make the credit card payment, so you had the money to buy the groceries. You just paid it. You were stupid, and you bought something you shouldn't have had. And we touched on the 401k. Yes, take advantage of 401k. I know that Dave Ramsey says. And everyone's going to go, well, Dave Ramsey says. I know what he says. Okay, I know everything that he says. But I understand his principles to my bone marrow. I am very disciplined, and I am a decent income earner. So I want you to take advantage of your 401k. Because listen, even if you're an asshole your whole life and you're in debt your entire life, I want that $4 million at the end of the tunnel for you when you turn 59. Okay, it's still going to be there whether you're an asshole or not. So yes, take advantage of the 401k. I don't care what if your tax bracket is. Listen, because you don't know what's going to happen to the tax code either. It could change. It's high now. It could be lower. Administrations change. Tax rates change. You don't know what it's going to be. Okay, So invest. Invest early, invest often, diversify, and I'll see you in the next one.
I got a question for you that I didn't ask you the last time that I like to ask everybody. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself 5 years ago?
Wow.
Stumps a lot of people.
Yeah, because you never slow down to think about it.
Yeah.
5 years ago. So 5 years ago, I was 18. I was in my second year of college. I wish that I always wish I knew what I knew now. That's a hard question. I wish that I surrounded myself with, I don't want to say better people, because you're not a bad person if you're bad with money. You're a good guy. You're a good girl. You're a good coach, good teacher, good, whatever. But I wish I surrounded myself with people who worked as hard as I do now, that have a vision. Because I think a lot of people go through the motions day after day, and they don't really know what they're going for. Like, I met some people that, I set my goal so freaking high. And I'm working like a dog to hit it every single day. And I think the people that you surround yourself with are just going through the motions. And so what I would tell myself is I wish that I was more social, put myself in the circles I needed to be in. And I was just too afraid to get there, because believe it or not, people who are successful actually want to help you. Like they love someone who wants to be like them. It's flattering. It really is. And I wish I had the courage to do that when I was 18. Don't be afraid to just shoot these people an email.
Ask questions.
I know it might be hard to get in the room with these people, these real estate investors, or, these, whatever your goal is, find out their contact info and shoot them an email, because I've done it and I've gotten some crazy responses, So yeah, I guess on the spot, that's it. I mean,
That was good. Well, all right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. See you on the next one.